the work of hitmen, and all over a soured movie deal, a deal that cost him a reported $35 million, a deal which was going to make Radin a Hollywood producer. It was his dream. It turned into his nightmare.
Mr. Radin became involved in securing the financing for the movie The Cotton Club, as our understanding. There was some disagreement about the way that the profits of that should be shared, and the meeting was scheduled for the night of his disappearance with one of the people arrested in this case, Lanny Jacobs Greenberger.
Karen Delaney Jacobs Greenberger, known as Lanny Jacobs, was going to be Radin's Hollywood connection, and in fact, she was. She introduced him to Robert Evans, the actor turned producer. Evans' own life also reads like a movie script. He was born wealthy, had a serious bout with drugs, 4 failed marriages, one to actress Holly McGraw, and one to former Miss America, Phyllis George. He produced some of the biggest movie hits of the late 60s and early 70s, to name a few: Barefoot in the Park, The Odd Couple, Love Story, Paper Moon, and the 2 Godfather films. Evans was a great contact for Radin, and now he wanted to make a gangster-style action film set in the same era that Radin's father, Broadway Al Radin, ran a New York speakeasy. This letter shows that Radin and Evans did plan a deal where the profits from the movie would be split, with each receiving 45%, and that Lanny Jacobs would receive a 10% finder's fee. But, according to the detective's report and the prosecution, Lanny Jacobs wanted a bigger cut of the profits, and she wanted it from Radin.
It was a result of the financial dispute concerning the production of this film that led to Mr. Radin's death.
Roy Radin was murdered on a Friday the 13th of May of 1983. He was scheduled to have a dinner date with Lanny Jacobs that night, and according to several witness accounts, Jacobs kept their appointment. But Radin somehow knew there was going to be trouble, and hours before his date, he asked his close friend, actor Demon Wilson, to follow him and Jacobs in his own car with a gun. We have reconstructed the eyewitness account of Wilson's secretary. She had accompanied Wilson that night. At around 9 p.m., a dark-colored stretch limousine arrived at Radin's Los Angeles hotel. A woman wearing a gold lame dress went into the hotel to get Radin. When the woman, said to be Jacobs, and Radin left in the limousine, Wilson and his secretary followed. As they traveled west on Sunset Boulevard, another black car came in between them, and they lost the limo in the traffic. They decided to go ahead to La Scala restaurant, where Radin and Jacobs were supposed to have dinner. They never showed up, but Wilson and his secretary had dinner anyway, and then they left.
I'm sure that DeMont probably felt a great deal of guilt because he knew Roy closely as a friend, and he must have known how Roy felt the moment he realized that DeMont lost him.
When he got lost in the traffic?
Mm-hmm.
Does it bother you that he said that he went to the restaurant?
Yes, of course it does. But he went to the restaurant and had dinner afterwards. Well, maybe it was because of lack of anything else. We all do strange things when we're panicking. And I imagine that at least he saw some type of situation, whether it be a kidnapping or, you know, who knows, he could have seen a gun in the back of a limousine or something. You know, there are little windows in the back of limos.
When police questioned Jacobs, she told them that she had picked up Radin, but that they had gotten into an argument that night, and that Radin got out of the limousine in front of the Hollywood hangout, Le Dome. Radin was never seen alive again. Just before he died, he called your mother on the phone. What did he say to her?
He called Mommy just as they called upstairs to tell him that the car was waiting downstairs. And Lainey was on her way up to the room, and he called Mommy and said, I just wanted to call you and say goodbye in case I get in a plane crash. And Mommy said, Roy, what's the matter? And Roy said, I love you very much. Tell all of my sisters I love them all.
Why would he call up and say, send love to everybody, and almost as if he knew what was coming to him?
He might have sensed, he might have heard from someone that she had threatened him. He might have just sensed something was wrong.
Radin's youngest sister, Lisa, asked us not to identify her face.
Do you think that Roy's ambitions cost him his life?
No, positively not.
What did cost him his life?
The greed of other people.
On the night Roy Radin disappeared, Bob Evans was clear across the country. He was here at his New York townhouse. He told police that Lanny Jacobs called him from California at around 11 p.m. Eastern Time to say she was going to meet Radin for a drink. She then called back at 1:30 to say she'd had a fight with Radin and that he told her he planned to take Evans to the cleaners. For 5 years, investigators would probe the innermost secrets of Radin's life, trying to answer the questions of his death, acting on any and all tips, including an anonymous call to Lieutenant Olander from the Southampton police.
He basically said that Roy will be out in California on May 9th. Gus, whoever the Gus was, will take care of things. The two guys got paid and will do the job. They can't do it in New York City because he's well known. Have to do it in California. Elaine Jacobs has worked out all the details and she had paid the guys already.
1 month later, Radin's body was found, and eventually a man named Bill Ryder, one of Larry Flint's former bodyguards, would come forward, implicating his former colleagues as the men who killed Roy Radin.
On trial for that murder in Los Angeles today are Lonnie Jacobs Greenberger, her former boyfriend William Menser, Alex Marty, and Robert Lowe. If convicted, all of them face the death penalty. We'll, of course, be following that trial closely. Now, when we come back. Beverly Hills goes to Washington for an unbelievable showdown with the Supreme Court. That's later. And next, you get to spend Halloween night in Transylvania and the torture chamber of the real Dracula.